So let's talk today about online school versus in-person or going to school in a brick and mortar building. So there's many people that have very strong feelings about this one way or another, and I want to just touch on some of the pros and cons of both. So I am a parent of two high school students now, and they have both gone through K through at least 10th grade in person. My older daughter has now switched over to online because it was the right fit for her. So let's talk about why you might want to consider pulling your student from a brick and mortar physical building and putting them into an online setting. So first off, the most often times we hear students have trouble socializing or with interactions with their peers. Putting them into an online setting really gives them the opportunity to take away those extraneous situations that they cannot control. And it allows them to focus on their education and less on what other people around them are doing. So it can really help with anxiety. Students who tend to have mental health struggles really find that just being in control of their environment at home, someplace where it's safe and comfortable for them, really allows them to thrive with their education because that's what they're able to focus on. So we see, like I said, students with mental health struggles just doing so well in the online setting versus in person. Now, is everything better for a student with a mental health diagnosis once they go online? Of course not. I mean, there's still always going to be other issues, but very often it at least removes one of those barriers that is causing them to struggle more. So a pro there definitely for online. Another pro for online is we get to open up more options in terms of classes because we don't have to worry about putting a student into a physical seat. So if a student wants to take psychology and it's offered that semester, awesome, they get it, right? I don't have to worry about filling up my class. Now, that's the way it works at the high school I work at online. Is every online school that way? No, of course not. But for the most part, we have more flexibility with what we offer to students because we're not limited by a classroom size. Now, another option or another reason that I like the online setting is the flexibility. So many online schools allow for asynchronous work, which means they are not working one-on-one or in classroom settings in a live meeting. They get to work on their own time. So some students are not good at being productive at 8 a.m. I'm not that productive at 8 a.m., so I don't blame them. Now, that means that students can, work around work schedules if they have a job or if they are maybe into sports and they have activities that they are able to do in the middle of the day. This allows them to do their schoolwork around those activities. So it works really well for some students who are looking for that flexibility as well. Now, online is not the perfect option for everyone, right? The main thing that we see students missing when they come online is that they don't have the socializing that they had in person. And some students really thrive with that, right? Those extroverted students are looking for that engagement with other students, and it is hard when you're behind a screen. So most online schools do have options in terms of groups, where students can meet other students, but oftentimes we see that those groups are not overly populated by students. We usually tend to get a much smaller percentage of our students engaging in those groups. So it is difficult to get to meet and become close friends like you would in a brick and mortar school. And along with that also means that we have limited activities. We're not doing field trips. We don't have groups like robotics and chess club and theater, things like that need to be in person. And then to build on that, we also then, of course, typically wouldn't have sports, right? The joy of an online school is anyone in our state or in our area, whatever your school's limitations are, can join your school. In the case of the school I'm at, it's a statewide school. So of course we cannot do sports because we cannot include everyone. So those are just some of the big key things that students are missing out on. The last thing I wanted to mention too, that I think a lot of the juniors and seniors tend to think about, is they're missing out on the big school dances, homecoming, the football game, senior activities that might be going on. So you miss that camaraderie. So for some students, that's a big deal. For others, not so much. But these are just some of the things I wanted to encourage you to think about, weigh the pros and cons if you have considered putting your child or yourself into an online school. It's definitely the right place for some, but if you tend to struggle with motivation, procrastination, holding yourself accountable to get your stuff done, then I would definitely encourage you to go in person where you've got that teacher who can look you in the eye and say, hey, did you remember to do your assignment? It's very hard for staff of an online school to sometimes engage with students if they are purposely trying to avoid us. So it depends on your personality and your capability to run and do your work on your own. If you need a lot of assistance, then I would encourage you to consider staying in person. If you have other questions about this, as always, please feel free to leave them in the chat or reach out to me. But thanks again.